Hello, everybody. This is Scott Dillon here from the SAP Cloud Platform Center of Excellence for North America. And I lead a monthly program called SAP Cloud Platform Garage, and we cover a broad range of technical topics. But today we're doing a little tangent. We're going to try something new. In addition to the Garage series, which is we have the opportunity today to interview Rajesh Kapoor and Ashok from SBP Consulting and talk about a project they did with SAP Cloud Platform. So let's do some quick introductions. Rajesh Kapoor, what do you do for Enerfab?
Hello, everyone. My name is Rajesh Kapoor, and I'm VP of IT for Enerfab. We are based out of Cincinnati, and I have been with Enerfab for 10 years, and I manage all the IT, including SAP for Enerfab.
Awesome. And Ashok, how long have you been working for SBP Corp, and what is SBP Consulting? What do you guys do over there?
Yeah, hi. So I've been working for SBP Consulting for almost 15 years, and we specialize mainly in digital manufacturing, SAP digital supply chain, and we use SAP technologies, whether like SAP Cloud Platform and ECC, S4, IBP. That's what we have been focusing on. And we had the fortune of working with Rajesh, with Enerfab, building these solutions on SAP Cloud Platform for them.
Awesome. So I've had a chance to kind of talk with you guys prior to today about what was going on. But Rajesh, can you give us a sense for how this all started? Like, what was the what we call the business event that kind of you woke up one day and said, hey, I should be talking to Ashok. I should be thinking about a SAP Cloud Platform. It probably didn't start like that. You probably had some sort of business problem, right, that you were trying to solve?
Yes, absolutely. So a little bit about our company. We are a construction, fabrication, and a maintenance organization. And we have 3 manufacturing locations within the United States. And then for our construction and maintenance work, we go and work at our customer locations. So what this business was that we charge our customer based on a time and material basis. And receiving the material and sending those packing slips back to the office was a 3 weeks process. And what the business wanted to do is receive them in the real time so we can improve our cash flow and bill the customer in a timely fashion and also pay our suppliers in time. So that was the definition, is that they wanted to do a good receipt in the field using a mobile device. That was our problem definition.
Okay, so time entry, goods receipt in the field, real time, sometimes potentially offline.
Yes. So okay. As the first project definition started, it evolved into something much bigger than what we originally thought. So the good receipt, the basic definition was just the mobility piece in the good receipt. Then the time application and collecting time electronically became a part of it. And then the offline piece got added to it. So that as we moved along in this journey, a little bit more technology and the components got added.
Gotcha. And we'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. So that's kind of where it started. And then, in terms of how many people were involved in that, like how much of an impact is this type of scenario on your business? Like, because I would assume that you'd want to do this with every project, right? Not like 1 out of 10, but every project.
Sure. So actually, this was a first project. So we were looking for something mobility-wise, and when the cloud platform idea came to our mind, the device agnostic piece automatically came into play. Okay, we want something which is going to work on Androids and iOS and the browsers. So that came into mind. But the biggest impact it did, it opened up a whole series of opportunities. So that one field project became entire shop automation here in Cincinnati and 2 other shops where we started collecting the time. And when I looked at it a little bit more, it became more like a human enterprise interaction problem. So that we figured out the technology, that it works. We can take the data from the backend ECC system, show it on these mobile devices. But on a bigger scenario, we realized that it is basically redesigning an enterprise altogether. How we interact with our customers, our suppliers, and our employees. So it more of a become an enterprise design problem, and we went in that route redesigning our key applications and the way we interact with our customers and give them more greater visibility into their own work and transparency, and allow them to open a URL using the cloud platform so they can come and see what's going on their projects with Enerfab.
That's awesome. So I guess I can quote you on when you said the technology works. So this is good for me as someone that works in the SAP Cloud Platform area. But let's just talk about that a little bit. So when you started the project, did your company had the company standardized on a particular device type, or you kind of went into the project thinking we're going to need to make sure that it supports all devices, or was it the case where you already had iPhones and you said, well, let's start with the iPhone and then we'll think about the Android stuff later?
So basically, this was such a new project. Everyone had iPhones. So some of the people wanted to do the good receipt on the phone themselves. So we had to enable the application with iPhones. But putting on an Android device and the browser, it depends upon what the test case is. We had to enable all the technologies, and currently all of them are being used in the shop here and also in the field.
Wow, that's pretty cool. So then I guess just flipping over to Ashok for a second. So Ashok, you sit down with Rajesh. He kind of outlines for you, this is what we're thinking about, goods receipt, out in the field, disconnected. Do you panic at that point?
Honestly, I would say yes. No, beginning is because some of the premises, SAP first, SAP tech. You want to use SAP technology, and when we started, where SAP Cloud Platform was kind of getting started, and we have seen a huge amount of progress, leaps and bounds compared to where we started in terms of the technology and the services. But then we also had to talk about is whatever the solution is being developed is future proof, because we wanted to ensure that that solution, when they move to S4, all their investments are protected. So we were looking for a platform, looking for a solution which is scalable and future proof from an investment perspective. And of course, we started working with SAP, and the support that we received from SAP development team was phenomenal. It's like we were having a lot of calls, issues. So we actually worked with SAP, with Enerfab, with the business, and we were able to develop these applications. And because we were resolving the issues as we went along, so that was the comfort level that we had. And then the number of applications just grew from where we started with the offline to now, as Rajesh mentioned, they have these applications now running operators for the supervisors. They have customers who are able to access the system from outside. They have vendors who are able to access the system from outside. So that is just like a confidence that Enerfab and SBP Consulting built over a period of time with SAP Cloud Platform. It was very good experience for us.
This is great. Since you've said so many things in there that I'd like to talk about, but I guess I'll pick a one or two given the time that we have, because I think we're going to try to keep this short and consumable for people that want to watch it later. But one of the things you said, I think that's very important, and it just happens to coincidentally match up with something I was talking about yesterday in a presentation that I was doing, which is, some of the key criteria for building a extension in the cloud. And one of the things that I said to people in my mind that's very important is the ability to have it evolve independently of the backend. And so I think, Rajesh, you had mentioned, or Ashok had mentioned, that you're on ECC. I don't know what version you're on. Is it, which version are you using today?
So we are on 6.0 Enhancement Pack 4.
Okay, so ECC, Enhancement Pack 4. And of course, it sounds like one of the key criteria here was build something as an extension in the cloud so that when the time comes and Enerfab is ready to go to S4, this extension will still work.
Yeah, I think that was our whole idea, that we want to protect our investment, but we didn't want to wait that long. By the time we make a decision, put our project plan together, we would have lost valuable time. So this was a perfect solution for us to get into the mobility world, use SAP Cloud Platform, and still gain a couple of years before everything goes to it.
Right. And this is something, Rajesh, you touch on something there that I hear from customers quite often, which is, we're going to get going with SAP Cloud Platform when we move to S4. And I think this is a perfect example that illustrates it is very reasonable and very doable that you can innovate in parallel to your journey to S4. Would you agree with that statement?
Oh, absolutely. And I think Ashok can talk more about the components because they were so independent. The backend system and a lot of our investment earlier we did in our project system, that's what we use, was very much reused because those were modular components. So you can still call a BAPI or a function module or the Z tables. And everything which we did in past 10 years when we went live with SAP, a lot of those components which were run on our ALV or ABA programs were reused as a part of this exercise. So we were able to use a lot of that investment as well.
That's great. That's great. Okay, so let's pop over to Ashok and talk some tech for a second. We'll try to balance the business stuff with the tech stuff and not go too deep. So, Ashok, give us a feeling for the types of technologies that were used here. So I heard Rajesh say browser, mobile, offline, and so of course that needs to translate into some specific technologies that your company would have used to implement that. Can you give us a sense for what some of those were?
Sure. It is on the cloud platform. Some of the services that we started using and have been like we had, of course, we use the web IDE for most of it for the development. We use the mobile services. We did use the SAP CPIDS for integration with the ECC systems. And then we also had the smart data integration. We also deployed that. So because we were bringing in some catalog of 4 million records from another service provider, which is, we didn't see any reason for them to go into ECC or any other. So we were able to use SDI to bring that information into the cloud platform. And then we also had the workflow for communication to your suppliers and to the internal. We use the organization hierarchy that is available in ECC. So we used the workflow and we did look at the document services, but we did not use it as much. So we used a range of SAP services. And since they are already in the SAP Cloud Platform and there are other applications, we said that in future, if they need to get into any of the machine learning, they are kind of positioned right now to use some of the new services that are available. Because we started collecting a lot of data, production data, shop floor data is coming into the system. So that is now getting ready for the next stage. But these were some of the main application services that we have used.
So I hear two things there, and we'll get down. I heard two things. So one, I hear you say, on the one hand, the SAP Cloud Platform, and of course I know this because I work it every day, but to hear it from you, stay, just off the top of your head, 8 platform services.
Mm-hmm.
The platform, as you mentioned, is becoming bigger, better, stronger every day with a full complement of services. So that's the good news, I think, for customers. But I think on the other side, the challenge that customers would have is skill sets. Mm-hmm. For each of those services, right? Because you mentioned SDI, so smart data integration. You mentioned data services, web IDE, integrate. So there's a lot of different things in there, right? So how did your team go about acquiring the skills to kind of use all those individual services? Do you look to 2 to 3 different people, or do you expect one person to kind of have the full, what they call, I guess, a full stack developer, or do you have people that cover certain topics?
We do have like at an architect level who understands that complete end-to-end, the full stack. But then over a period of time where we did specialize into integration specialists, UX specialists, backend specialists. So we did have that. Okay. So, and the need for having somebody who can oversee the overall solution was very, very important. But at the same time, trying to work to get the agility and the speed and make the best use of the technology for that component, we did get into specialized skills where somebody just owns the integration piece all the way from UX to the backend and monitors all the traffic that goes on.
Okay, so what I hear you saying there, just to recap that, I think is important. This is perfectly in line with the way that I think as well, is that you need someone that can understand, comprehend the business problem, mm-hmm. map it out, against the various services that are inside of SAP Cloud Platform, and then have some people on your team that can specialize in the individual pieces, that when it comes time to configure and, pull things apart and wire things up, then you've got that skill set ready to go. Would that be accurate?
Yes, that is correct. And a lot of these solutions is the approach that we had was because we have maintained our cloud platform instance as well. So usually this has gone through, like we go through the build services to kind of create the mockup, and then also use the, we prototype it and we validated the prototype. And then SAP Cloud Platform allows you to take some of the code and put it into the production with using the GitHub and all that. That helped a lot in reducing the time from concept to delivery.
Yeah, that's I'm a huge believer in the prototyping process. I'm a huge believer in just the tool that we have. I think it's a very good tool, and it allows you to see concepts come to life relatively quickly and get immediate feedback. Okay, so back to Rajesh for a few minutes. So we've only got a couple minutes left here. So Rajesh, now that you've looked back and you've got how long ago did this project start?
So around 18 months ago.
So a year and a half. So from when you first initially started to the time you had something go live, what was that? How long did that first go live take?
I think it was close to 3 months project.
Okay, so that's not a lot of time. Like that's 12 weeks. That's pretty fast. So how did you accomplish getting an MVP or a minimal viable product out the door so quickly?
So basically, I think that's where SBP came to help us out. They did a lot of resources who did the initial installation, connectivity to our backend SAP system. Most important on my list was the security profile piece of it. So they figured out that piece also. And we had our team here who basically spelled out the requirement figure and how do we want to have the look and feel of the application. Because what I realized after this whole journey is that the technology works. It's all about when our traditional users, our SAP GUI users, now you're shifting base from a traditional office user into the shop floor users and giving iPads in their hands. They, they are going to compare it to any other app from the App Store or from Google Store. So Google Play. So now you're not up against an SAP traditional GUI. You are against every other app in the world. So
Right.
a lot of focus was on the design piece of it. And
That's
it
a
all
really good
boiled
point.
down to how good you can design the application and would be acceptable to the user. So after the first 3 months, SBP helped a lot. We had a pretty good team here. We tested it out. And we ran into a lot of hurdles before we actually put the project live. But once it's done, it more become a design issue than it was a technology issue for us.
Okay, so the project started with, I think you'd mentioned, so in this first 3 months, you went live with a piece, and then
Yeah.
the project started to get bigger and bigger as people wanted to add more and more features, right? Is that accurate?
Absolutely. So the one field project become more of a complete, what we call as a transformation of everyone's daily work using the cloud application on the floor here. So the field project is kept using it until the customer came on board and say, we want to go live with this application of collecting all employees' data as they come in. So we actually ended up in writing our own clock and system. People can flash
Wow.
their badge and they are keen, and then as they are dispatched to do different works, by end of the day, we know how many hours they work and how much their pay should be. So
Wow,
all
that's
the
pretty
data,
cool.
which was taking almost a week, became available within next day. But the biggest transition was to build something which people would use, and it's user friendly.
Wow. So this is so just we'll clue it up here in about another minute. So from your perspective, you look back. I think one place where people might be very interested from you is what would you have done different if you had to go back and do it all again? I know I'm putting you on the spot, but if you had to do one change that maybe would make the process quicker, faster, more agile, whatever that may be, what comes to your mind immediately when I say that?
So we did involve users, especially our shop operators, in this game. But I thought we were a little late to involve them in the game. If I have to redo it again, I'll pull a couple of our good operators from the floor who are living this day in, day out and make them a part of this whole designing phase very early in the game and take their input and say, how do they really want to use and how do we want to see the drawings? So at some point of time, they came back and say, actually, I want to pull the drawing from my network drive right into this cloud platform. So
Wow.
that started something else, and we started storing those 4,000 drawings coming from the customer into an Azure cloud. So the technology expanded further. So if I have to redo it again, I would probably bring all end users much early in the game.
That's good advice. Good advice. Okay, so back to you, Ashok, for one last point here. So, Ashok, as part of this, my understanding is that you, as part of this co-innovation with Enerfab, you developed a suite of applications, that are part now of I would say, an offering called Digital Ally. Is that accurate?
That is correct. Yeah. So we call it as a Digital Ally. It has the shop floor applications. It has the field service applications. It has the offline GR app that you talked about. And there are a few others that we are adding to the suite. And some of them are available on the SAP App Center, where customers can kind of download, and where we can also give the demos anytime. But this has been a co-innovation effort with Enerfab that we have done.
That's great. It's very insightful. Well, gentlemen, I want to thank you both. I think it's been a really good, I think for anybody listening over the course of 15, 20 minutes, I think they'll get a good sense for what this project was, how long it took. A couple of the key points, obviously, ECC was the source, the system of record. You put in some services, a product that sits on top of that, provides offline to the field workers. Just a great story. And the time you did it in it's really phenomenal. So I applaud you very much so for getting that done. So thank you for joining us today, Rajesh and Ashok. And I understand one last point, Ashok, your team will be at TechEd as well. And if we want to have anybody go visit you or your team, we could arrange that as well, right?
Absolutely. So we have our consultants, architects coming to TechEd, and we'll be glad to demo or discuss about our journey and our experience working on cloud platform and what we have done for Enerfab.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, Rajesh and Ashok. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Scott. Thanks. Bye, Rajesh.
Bye-bye.
See ya.
Bye.